Neither machine knows any gender, nor does talent. This person recently set a record to become the fastest Indian woman, clocking a top speed of 357.10 kilometers per hour at Nat tracks in Indore in the Pininfarina Battista. A well-respected name in the automotive world, her job includes test driving and reviewing all the cars for the Indian market, apart from being responsible for all the video content at Haymarket Group of publications in India. It is said that what you really want in life, and when you never give up, you actually get it. This story is a living example of one such human being. Renuka Kirpalani is currently the host and editor of Autocar show on Times Network and is the executive editor video content for Autocar India, which includes a channel on YouTube with over 2 million followers. Winning her very first race against a field of 18 men in 1990, she went on to have a successful career in racing and rally, culminating in winning the Indian National Championship in rallying as a navigator. Renuka learned the ropes about cars working with her father, a well-known tuner, and prepared her own race and rally cars as well. Renuka is also a juror on many prestigious world automotive awards such as World Car of the Year, Women World Car of the Year, Autocar India Award. So let's listen from this woman itself how her journey began and everything that she's doing to contribute in the world through her own domain, through her own talent, and how she's intensifying life and humanity on this planet. So let's welcome Renuka. Hi, Renuka. Welcome to Intensify Life podcast. And I am so glad to have you here because I'm really excited for all the achievements that you have had till now. And you are an inspiration for me. So
Thank
welcome
you
to the
so
show.
much for having me. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Renuka, before I even ask, how did this journey began? And I think that will come automatically. There is one thing that recently happened, and that is something that you recently set a record to become the fastest Indian woman to, clock in a speed of 357.10 kilometers per hour.
That's
And
right.
can you just share that experience and how did it lead to that?
Yeah. Well, I work with Autocar India, and they had this idea since the Pininfarina Battista was going to be in India around the Formula E races. The company is owned by Mahindra and Mahindra, and they were bringing the car down for the Formula E races. So we kind of had an idea that why can't we set some records in this car, since it's the first and only time it's going to be here, and probably we won't see it for a long time after. So I think they were game, and out of the idea of setting records was born the idea of, like, why not we set a record with the fastest woman as well, since I'm there at the office and I work and I drive, because that's never been done. And we didn't, there's actually no record that we could find of a woman in the fastest woman in a production car globally as well. So we haven't made that claim, but we think that it is that as well, because we don't really find any other records there. So it was a great idea to do this, and of course I'm always game and up to do. Nerves are always there, and you think that, oh my god, I haven't done this for a long time, will I be able to do it? But I have to say that the Pininfarina Battista made that record so easy. Being an electric car, the acceleration is just so phenomenal. It's so quick. It's so smooth. The car is so stable and planted that, you never felt like, like everybody asked me, oh, what was it like inside the car? I said, the outside looked so much more dramatic than the inside, because inside the car just felt serenely calm. Like, nothing was really happening that made me feel unnerved inside the car. I just felt like, okay, I can keep going, and if I could have gone at a higher speed, I probably would have, because it just kept going, and it was pretty amazing. So yeah, I think a lot of the nerves happened before, but once I got into that car and drove, it was incredibly easy. And then, of course, there's the elation of having set a record and, driving at that speed and crossing another barrier in your own life. Like I'd driven at 300, but I hadn't gone beyond that. So this was another barrier for me to break. So that excitement is always there.
Wow, congratulations and double
Thank you.
congratulations, because if it is like a global record for that matter, oh my God, that's a wow. And yes, you mentioned that, you are into this rallying, and you are, of course, in the Autocar India as well. But how did this journey began in this entire, in this industry, I would say?
So, I've kind of grown up around cars all my life. My dad used to build race cars, tune race and rally cars. He used to race and rally himself. So I've been around racetracks, I've been around cars pretty much since I grew up. And it's always been a passion and a love, because I think it's the things you imbibe as a child that kind of stay with you through life. And I love tinkering around in my dad's garage. Very often I'd be taken there after school, and just to keep me occupied, they'd give me something to open out one part of a car and put it back together again, just, to keep me occupied. And it kind of became a passion, a hobby. I'd start opening out things at home. Like if the radio wasn't working, I'd try and fix it. And I got good at doing these things. So I had that bent of mine. I wanted to do mechanical engineering, but and that time I think the bigger thing was really MBA, and my parents felt that probably that would be the better thing for me to do. So I did that. Hated doing commerce. I just hated it with a vengeance. So I kind of, and I'm a creative bent of mine. So I did up my house and someone liked it, did up their house and someone liked it. So got into this interior design business during college. That was another pain, because collecting money from people is damn hard and I'm very bad at it. So after college, I decided to go out and do something where I knew that people would just have to kind of pay me over the counter, and when the job was done. So it was a couple of choices, and I chose hairdressing school because it was like the cheapest thing and I could afford it on my own. So I went off to London, did a hairdressing course, came back, worked at the Taj for a long while. And while I worked at the Taj, I kind of gathered enough money to buy one of the race cars that my dad was selling off. I was, old enough to drive by then, and I convinced him that I was buying the car just because I needed a car to drive. And if he was going to sell this car cheap, then might as well sell it to me. So I got one of his race cars, and then all of the friends that I had grown up around the race
I'll just reiterate that thing. So you actually bought your car from your father. That was your first car itself.
Yes, I actually bought that car from my father. It was a Fiat. One of his race prepared Fiats. And my father was a legendary tuner. Well, is a legendary tuner. His cars were known to be one of the quickest. And also all the boys that I kind of grew up with on the racetrack and all told me, come on, man, now you've got dad's car. You can't not enter the races. You just got to do this. So I said, but he's going to kill me if I do that. And they said, just do it. And, sometimes, so many times I get asked that, how is it to be a woman in a man's world? And I always say that, it's the men around me that have encouraged me to kind of go out and do the stuff that I do. When I did my first race, it was the boys that encouraged me, helped me, taught me everything, got me there to do my first race. So I went out and did that race. My dad was very much there. And he, his attitude was, well, if you've chosen to do this without my permission and do it, then do it on your own, So I kind of had to muster everything up together, the entry fees, this, that, everything, and enter the race together, all by myself. And the boys really helped me. I was nervous. They showed me how to scrub in my tires. And then I qualified. I qualified second in that race. And that was even more scary. Everybody says, oh, but if you qualified second, you should have been happy. I said, no, then I really, if I'd qualified somewhere at the back, it would have been like nothing to prove. But then I really had something to prove that, oh gosh, now I better win this damn thing because my dad's watching, everybody's watching, So I went out and I raced and I was so scared. I was so scared and so nervous. The third car behind us flipped. So I kind of turned that rear view mirror and just continued racing because I just didn't want to see what was happening behind me. And suddenly I saw yellow flags waving all around me. And I was like, oh, and yellow flags on a racetrack means slow down. They want you to kind of, slow down. So I was like, what happened? Then I saw the marshal literally stand in front of my car and stop me. And he said, why are you still going round? The race is over. And I'm like, oh, oops. And then I kind of went into the pits. And in those days, it was at the Juhu circuit. And at the Juhu circuit, all the crowd used to sit just where you kind of drove in. My friend Farah pulls me out of the car and she's shaking me and telling me, you know what you've just done? And I was really nervous. I said, man, I've really messed this up. So she says, you won. And that's when it kind of sunk in that I had won the race. But till then, honestly, I had no clue. I just drove like a bat out of hell. And it was like tunnel vision, you know? So that's how I did. I won my first race. Then my dad kind of accepted that, you know, I ain't going to quit this. I really want to do it. So after I was still working at Taj, so I started going to his workshop afterwards, and he saw that I was genuinely interested. So I quit Taj and then started working with my dad full time, really building race cars, tuning rally cars. So kind of preparing my own car for my rallies and stuff like that. And that's where I really learned all the technical aspects of what I know today. You know, working with cars, hands-on, opening them up, getting under them, finding out how they really work physically, you know, opening out full engines, putting them back together again. So that was really my journey. Worked with my dad, rallied, raced for a long time. In fact, did my last rally when I was pregnant. Didn't realize I was pregnant. And then, of course, I realized I was pregnant. So I quit rallying and racing. And then for a long while, I gave up rallying and racing and all, of course, to bring up my kids. And post having my son, I think when my son was about 6 or 7, I was working with my husband at that time in his garment export business because he needed the help. And when my son was about 6 or 7, that's when Homer Surabji, another friend from the rallying and racing world, and someone I'd known all the while, and the editor of Autocar called me and said, hey, we're doing this television show and, you know, we need an anchor. We want someone who knows cars themselves. So would you be interested? And I was like, oh, a chance to get back into this world. Of course, I'm interested. So that's how the automotive journalism came to be. And that's pretty much the story of how I'm here. And it's been 20 years. This June will be 20 years of being an automotive journalist.
Oh, wow. That's 2 decades.
Yeah.
And it's like an anniversary. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
The one hell of a journey. I got goosebumps when you were sharing about that race story and how, you know, you were stopped and then it was said, the race is over, you won. Oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned rallying and racing.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, as you know, in India, this is a fairly new thing. Many people don't even know that there is an industry which exists and there are career options in that as well. And to shed some light on that, can you explain or share what is rallying, racing, and how is this different from a normal kind of drive? Yeah.
So rallying is basically when you drive on public roads. In my days when we rallied, we drove on open roads. So the traffic was also there. People were also there. We mostly had our rallies at night because it meant that there was less traffic on the roads and there were less cars on the road. But these days, I mean, of course, safety regulation has gotten stronger, and you have to have rallying on roads that are closed off to public traffic. So though they are on roads that are, you know, regular roads that we would use, it has to be closed off to public traffic. So that is what rallying is. Racing is more on a circuit, which is purpose built for only that. So like Budh circuit or the Chennai track, they're built only for cars that go round and round, much like you would see Formula One, you know, on a race track. They're two very different styles of driving as well. Rally drivers, you'll see them, you know, sliding a lot sideways and dirt and putting the car sideways, jumping over. Racing is more about very clean driving, smooth lines, not moving the car around too much, you know, and more about speed, just full on speed. Rallying is also about knowing when to really push hard, when to pull back. So very different styles of driving. Myself personally, I enjoyed being a race car driver far more than a rally driver. I tried both of them. Race driving is more my style, clean lines, precise steering movements, you know, not so much drama, but, you know, more about the speed. So it's two different styles. Now there are career opportunities. Even for women, there are a lot of career opportunities in both these. I'm so happy to see more and more women enter motorsport these days. And I'm enjoying the fact that actually the sport is picking up steam. Earlier with more go-kart tracks around the country, more of, entry level motorsports opportunities around the country, more and more people are realizing that there are chances. So there are go-kart tracks around the country, and those go-kart tracks promote people that they find really good and say, hey, you can go to this. There are a lot more smaller events around, like autocrosses and things that happen for public at large. Then of course the people who can do well really get interested and do, more serious events. It's also being publicized a lot with a lot more social media, a lot more, airtime on television. These events get publicized a lot more. But as you say, it's not a sport that's recognized as much as football or cricket or tennis is in this country. It's still a sport that's not so recognized. I think largely because it's a very expensive sport. Owning a car, preparing a car, there are a lot of regulations, safety regulations. So it's expensive to have a race car. But now there are a lot of race clubs where you can actually go out and hire a car for a season. So that full expense of buying the car, preparing it is not yours. You just kind of pay a fee and get it, and people do all the work behind the scenes. So I think opportunities are opening up more and more, not only to race and rally, but even behind the scenes for engineers, for people who want to, like marshals, people who actually stand along the track and monitor the movement or the pace of the rally, for doctors who have to be there on rallies. There's so many more opportunities opening up in the world of rallying and racing both.
Wow, that gives a great idea about it. Now, when we say about, people getting into these fields, is there any particular course, college, or institution where people can actually learn about this and make a career into it?
So there are a lot of rally schools. Gaurav Gill, one of our top rally drivers in the country, owns and has them periodically. So if you follow him on Instagram, he will always advertise his rally school. So if you find that you think you're good at driving, you can go attend one of his rally schools and find out and assess whether you really are. And that's kind of a stepping stone, because he will tell you how to get into the next rally, help you get in touch with teams and things like that. But there are other schools as well. Chetan Shivraman, another rally driver, he has rally schools. I think the best way to do it is contact your local motorsports body. There are a lot of them around India. So you have to just look up like FMSCI is the Motorsports Federation of Chennai, and Kolkata has, Mumbai has. So you just look up for your local motorsports body, find out, go and see what events are on their calendar, try and do an event. I would say start with a TSD format. It's a time, speed, distance kind of rally. Very simple. A lot of it is based on the calculation and what the navigator is doing more than what the driver is doing. A lot of women attempt this kind of rallying, and we have two very big women's rallies which are in the TSD format in India. So I think if you start with that, then you can get into competitive rallying, and it's kind of a stepping stone. Once you get into the field, you hear a lot of people, you get to know people, and it automatically kind of escalates into a lot of things. I myself personally have a couple of events for women around the year where I encourage women to come out and drive with me off-road, or even learn advanced driving techniques. So there are lots of opportunities for this.
This is amazing. And you mentioned this is about rallying. What about racing? Is it the same method?
Same thing. Go-kart tracks around your country. Get to them, start doing go-karting. It's the best stepping stone to go racing. A lot of the go-kart tracks are affiliated, or the people that are training at go-kart tracks are affiliated with racing circuit and bigger, larger racing groups. Same motorsport bodies in your cities can help you get into racing. There are federations like Women in Motorsport as well, and the Federation of Motorsports of India. FMSCI. Did I say that? Sorry, Madras Motorsports Club was the Chennai Motorsports Club, and FMSCI is the Federation of Motorsports in India. If you contact them, they will give you career opportunities that there are, and the different things that you can do in the world of rallying. Go marshalling, attend service for some rally guys. Like I started off by doing service for other rallies. So you're there at the service, you see what's happening, you learn a lot more. You also learn on how to handle your own car when things go wrong. So it's a stepping stone and a lot of different ways of getting into motorsport.
That's amazing. And so this is a very situation specific question. I'm a personal, solo driver. So when I go, I have met a couple of more women on the road who are solo driving, etc. But one common thing that came into picture was like driving is not only the thing. You need to understand the car, and if there is some kind of a situation, at least for tire changing and taking care of the engine, etc., all those things need to be in place. So the common thing that was like when typically I'm just talking about the women or the girls who want to learn more about this, many people who go to the garages or the local shops where they want to ask people ki, how to change the tire or what to do. By seeing video you can learn, but when we are doing it in real, that's a different thing. So is there any particular places or even apps or shops, etc., where people can go and learn basic things about a car, people who are driving and want to take their career slowly into this line? Are there also facilities like this in India?
Absolutely not, but it's a great idea. Yeah.
So that's a
I
gap
think there
area.
should be. There's, a lot of Instagrammers will give you these tips for
Right.
sure. Like now on Instagram, if you probably search how to change a tire, you will get like 100, or on YouTube,
There are
you
many
get 100.
videos, but the videos don't
But
help.
there is
That's the
no
main
place
thing.
to physically go and learn and do these crazy things and, absolutely learn a few easy things about your car that you should know.
Yes.
These days, in earlier days, you had cars where you could probably change the spark plugs and do a lot with the car yourself. Like, I mean, you would have an ignition coil and, you could rub the points and on the starter if things went wrong. But these days, it's very computer led. So probably the most basic things in a car, like a fuse or maybe changing the tire, are things that you can do. So there's not so much you can do anymore because most of the cars need to be put onto a computer and then attended to if things go wrong. Of course, suspension parts, there are still things that you can do to get a car to safety. But yeah, simple things like if you have a tire puncture or if this is what happens to your car, this is what you should do. There probably should be places where there are camps for people to go and learn these things. I remember a very long time ago, I have a very dear friend who was in hairdressing in Taj with me, and she called me in a full panic one day because she knew I was saying, "Get here fast, there's something wrong with my car." I reached there and it's a puncture. And I told her, "Dilnawaz, seriously. I mean, you cannot have called me all the way here to repair a puncture." And the two of us repairing a puncture, and the cab drivers looking at us and saying, "Should I help?" And I'm like, "No, I can do this on my own." But yeah, I changing a tire should be something that everybody knows.
Yeah, that's a very great point you shared, because there are, I would say, agencies or schools where they teach driving, they give the license, and there is a huge upper section which is teaching the rallying, racing, etc. But let's say, what about the people who want to drive, don't want to get into rallying or racing, but they have this middle area completely gap about
Correct.
teaching or showing them how to take care of the cars even in a situation where they find themselves no help with. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is
Correct.
something I wanted to understand.
You're absolutely right. And there should be, like if you're stuck in a car and you're in the monsoon and it's filling up, what should you do? How do you get out of the car? There are lots of things that actually people should know.
Yeah. So that's maybe
A
this
nice idea.
idea somebody
Yes.
somebody can come up with. So that's great. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so you have been an Autocar journalist, right? You have been reviewing various cars, and I have seen some of your videos. I love the way the driving, the interior review, and everything is going on. So what do you enjoy the most about these kind of reviews of different types of cars?
I think just the variety that it provides, that every day you get into a different car, you're driving something new, there is always something new to look forward to. There's always something new to assess. I think that's what keeps me going. Of course, the fact that I love driving, it's often people ask me, how can you say that even in traffic? But it's like my zen time. I like being in a car, listening to music. It's my thinking time. Even if I'm stuck in traffic, I'm often lost in my own thoughts, listening to music or whatever, and I kind of sum up the day or whatever I need to do.
I can
Or
second that with
that's
you.
in the car.
I can
Yeah,
resonate that section with.
exactly. So it's the time where you don't really pick up your phone calls, you don't get disturbed. It's your own zen time in a car. So yeah, these days with hands-free, that has changed a bit. You do tend to phone calls as well, but initially it used to just be your own time in a car. But I think the fact that I can spend time behind the wheel, and the fact that there's something new every day, is what excites me.
Wow. And what's your favorite car till date? I mean, there might
Oh,
be
that keeps
many, but if you have to just pick up one.
If I have to pick up one, it is an old car called a Humber. It was a car that my dad was restoring, and I think 1903 or 1908. I always mix that up, but it just fascinated me as to how that thing lasted so many years and was still in functional condition, and so raw and so true and so simple, but yet a form of mobility. And I think that's what excited me about it.
It's like century.
Yeah, more than a century.
A century. That's amazing. I mean, is
I
that a
think
car or is
1903.
that?
Yeah, so more than a century. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fabulous to hear. And in all these years, you have been into rallying, you have been into racing, you have been to various places. And in all these years, what have been one of the most challenging or, most lesson learned type of situation you have faced till date?
If you fail, just pick yourself up and move on. Just don't dwell on the past. Just don't dwell on the past. I think that's the biggest lesson. Shit happens in life, and it's going to happen. The amount of times you break down in a rally, or you're winning a race and you get a puncture, it's just so frustrating. But why dwell on the past? Pick yourself up, move on, and the next opportunity might be a better one. So just keep looking forward. I think that's the best lesson that I've learned.
Wow.
And focus. I think I've learned to focus. Like I said, during that first race, I kind of drowned everything else out, until someone literally came and stood in front of my car. I wasn't aware of what's happening around me. So I think I've learned that kind of focus, to bring yourself into a zone where you're just focused on what you're doing. My kids very often tell me, "Mom, you're in the computer. I've been standing next to you and screaming, 'Mom,' for the past 5 minutes. Like, can't you hear me?" So I've learned that kind of blank everything else out around me from driving.
That is very powerful because a lot of people struggle with even just focusing for just a minute or something. And it's one of the most powerful thing you can do with any kind of work, or
Yeah,
just
so
be in that
people
silence
spend
itself.
hours meditating, and
Yes.
look, driving has taught me how to do that.
Wow. Wow. This is amazing. And so what apart from driving you love doing?
Me, well, driving is the biggest passion. I love travel, which is a part of what driving makes you do. Driving all around the world, seeing different places. I love traveling. I love just the adventure of small, big, close by, further. Just finding new places, chancing upon spots. The fact that when you drive, you find so many destinations that you might not have seen otherwise, or locations that you might not have found otherwise. That's what I enjoy about traveling a lot. I love reading, a thing which I haven't been able to do for a very, very long time. So yeah, when I'm on vacation, I like taking a good old-fashioned book and reading. You can turn the pages. That's something I really enjoy. I enjoy watching sport. I'm a big cricket fan, tennis fan. So yeah, those are the things that I enjoy.
Amazing. And when you said like abroad, have you even traveled to different countries from India and to India back by driving?
Yes,
Which
most.
are the
I've driven from India to Singapore. We've driven from Singapore back to India. I've driven from Germany to India. We've driven from India to France. So yeah, done some
wow.
crazy stuff. Driven cross country a lot, a lot. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And which has been the most fascinating drive, the route, your experience in all these cross-country
I
trips?
think when I came through Mongolia and China, when we drove the Great Quattro Drive, we drove Audi Q7 and we drove it from Germany to India. I think just crossing Mongolia and China for me was so fascinating. Mongolia is a country I'd love to go back to. It's on my bucket list to go back to again because it was just so beautiful. It's a very different kind of topography. It's completely flat in most places, very, very scenic, Martian kind of land, a lot of desert because you go through the Gobi Desert over there as well. But still so beautiful and so I think it's like stepping into the past a little bit. And that was it on the Mongolian side of the border. There was this little town that looked like it was out of the Wild West movies. And then we came into China, and it was like, oh, I stepped into civilization again. Everything was so modern and perfect, and roads that cut across valleys where you can't see the bottom of the viaduct because it's just built so high up in the valley. Tunnels that are kilometers and kilometers long because you'll never see a ghat road in China. They just don't believe in them. They just either cut through the mountain or go across the valley. And it's so fascinating to see these kind of, constructions. And every time I went to China, like when we went for the recce, we'd see one part being built. The next time we went there, it was already constructed. So, the way they build so fast. And it's such a modern country on one hand, and yet it has such fantastic historical places like Xi'an, the Great Wall, old towns. It's Nanjing, the old town. It's just beautiful, beautiful places that hold so much of history. So quite a fascinating contrast in that country. And I think that's why I enjoyed it a lot, a lot.
Wow. I'm just wanting to go right now. Your explanation itself is so realistic.
No, I'm telling you, if I tell you about, like, even when I went to Xi'an, if somebody tells you about, I'm getting old, I have to remember the name. It's about those soldiers. What are they called? In my mind, it was toy soldiers. It's an army of soldiers that have been built life size. Okay. And when I was told about them, I thought, okay, we're going to see clay soldiers in some museum. But there were pits and pits of life-sized soldiers, each one of them different with a different uniform, everything made. And I was, like watching 8,000 of them life-size in one pit like that. I was also blown away by this, and the story behind it was amazing. This 13-year-old emperor who was so scared to die that he wanted to take his army with him. Of course, the army didn't want to be killed with him. So the general convinced him that, nothing's real in the afterlife, so you can have this whole army come with you. So that's how this whole army was built. And they haven't excavated all of it yet because they want to preserve it. They find that, excavating it, opening to air is damaging these things. So there's still thousands of more of them buried. It's just fascinating things that you see.
Wow. So this one is in China, or this one is
in China? In China, in a place called Xi'an. It's Xian. It's sort of middle of China. So yeah, it's there.
It's amazing. And which has been your favorite solo trip?
My favorite solo trip. Actually, come to think of it, I haven't done as many solo trips as I should have in life. I always have someone along with me, a television crew, my family, some friend who's traveling with me. But every year I kind of go to the World Car of the Year. I'm a juror on the World Car of the Year. Yes. They have their jury round in LA. And I kind of go off there on my own. Of course, there are a whole bunch of other jurors there, but I drive on my own, a lot. We go up and down the hillside driving different cars. So that's something I really look forward to every year.
Wow, this is amazing. And when is your next trip coming up?
World Car of the Year jury round happens every November. So I'm looking forward to doing that this year. My next trip, nothing planned yet, but I want to do a lot more of driving this year. I want to do a lot more of destination to destination driving. There's a new car launch coming up, and they've offered us a car to go driving, but that's going to be with some friends again. So that will be a short journey. So looking forward to that.
Wow, this is amazing. And when you say, testing different cars in various regions, etc. In India, if you see the topography, I mean, it has all kinds of different varieties Absolutely. Of lands and everything. Which is the region where you enjoy driving the most? Or maybe, there is something that you are yet to go in any part of India where you want to drive particularly?
Ask Well, I would like to go and explore the Northeast more if you're asking me what I haven't seen and I'd like to see. But if you ask any driving enthusiast where they like to drive, they'll tell you the hills,
You,
because that's what gets us alive.
so
Your
when you
flat
say
road
hills,
is fun
or
and you get
hills or
speed.
mountains?
Well, mountains, hills, any winding road, give us a winding road and we're very happy, you know. So that's what driving enthusiasts thoroughly enjoy. Of course, you can drive flat out at great speeds on a racetrack, but there's nothing like a winding section of road. But yeah, the northeast of India is a place I haven't explored too much. That's a place I'd really, really love to go and explore more.
Wow, this is amazing. And looking forward to more of your, adventures coming up. Have you thought of writing a book based on your experience and story?
I know a lot of people tell me I should. I just haven't found the time to do it. Very recently, a friend of mine, a very dear school friend of mine, who's also an author, she's writing a book on classical music, which is a passion of hers, has been pushing me and convincing me, come on, I'm going to get you to do this. So, probably, yes, soon. Maybe that's one of the things that I'll do.
I'll be the first one to get your copy.
Thank you.
I would love to read your book with all the stories and all the experiences and adventure that you put in. This is amazing. So, you are also a juror to, World Car of the Year, Women World Car of the Year, and Autocar India Award as well.
That's right.
Right. And when you see, people coming up there getting the awards, and what is the difference you see? I would put it in the context of India specifically. Things that were like 10 years back and things that are now. How people are opening and, taking this industry.
Lots of changes. 10 years back, maybe cars were not launched as quickly here as they were globally. 10 years back, people were probably not building as many cars focused for India that then were going global. Now you see cars being purpose built for India and also being taken globally. So 10 years back, the consumer was not so aware about safety or didn't want so many safety features in his car. Now people are thankfully talking about it a lot. 10 years back, people were not wearing seat belts, which they should be in every seat of the car. It is so critically important. um I don't know how else to explain this, but once when we went to a Volvo museum, they made us go up and stand on a ladder that was probably 3 floors high, and then said, okay, jump. And I was like, are you crazy? I'm not going to jump from here. And they said that, that's the message you should be spreading, that would you do that with your life if you knew it were going to come to an end? But why do you sit in a car without a seatbelt? Because, it is your first defense of protection, and probably the biggest, people talk about ADAS and they talk about ABS and ESP, but if you don't have your seatbelt on, none of that will save you. So your first line of defense is seatbelt, and I think that's something that really, really should be enforced in India. In every seat of the car, people should be wearing their seatbelt. And don't say, I'm going at 30, I'm in the city. Even at 30, it can be fatal to you if you don't have your seatbelt on. So I think, these are the things that I'm happy about that are changing. People are recognizing this and talking about this a lot more. Safety is being spoken about a lot more. I hear a lot of people talk about global NCAP and all that. And my constant argument with them is, are you wearing your seatbelt in the car? Don't tell me how safe a Maruti is or how safe a Kushak is unless you're wearing the seatbelt in the car, because none of that makes any difference, So my whole point is, I think people also are changing, which is much nicer from the consumer level as well. We're getting a lot more technology in our cars. Technology is changing in our cars. Cars are now talking to us. We're talking to our cars. Everything's at touch as opposed to knobs and buttons. So lots has changed in cars over the last few years, and I think it's still going to change a lot more. We've gone from all gasoline driven engines to electric vehicles. So big changes.
Yes, and rightly mentioned, not just the seat belt for the adults, but even for the kids. I see nowadays, some people are actually making the kids also wear the belt, thankfully. So,
Talk about that, I must tell you that seat belts are made for a certain height. They're meant to protect adults. So if you have children that are below 8, 7, 8, they should also be in a car seat. So it's very, very critical for their safety. I see people putting their kids out of a sunroof, and it really, really, really hassles me, because why are you purposefully endangering your kid's life? It's not about how safe a driver you are. Something else may happen, you know, which could endanger. Please don't do that. These are things that, sometimes I think we take life too simply in India. We don't value our own lives as much. We don't give it as much importance as we should, especially when being in a car. I think we should value our lives more. A lot of people will say, oh, racing is such a dangerous motorsport. But you look at the kind of crashes that happen in F1, but because they have got all their safety gear in place, people walk away from those accidents. So I think give a little bit more credit to the safety equipment that's there. Use it, because it can be the difference between life and death, as we've seen recently in a lot of situations, that just wearing a seatbelt could have saved a life.
I totally agree. And we're talking about safety, there are certain basic things that people consciously know, but they don't actually do it. Because even when I see, like, belt is definitely one. When you also mentioned that, because of so many hands-free and automatic cars are there, but still people will take the phone and speak while driving. So that is another basic awareness feature or basic thing for your safety. So
Yep.
that
Small distractions,
yes.
small distractions can lead to big problems. So yeah, I think Mumbai police, if you follow their Instagram handle, are doing a phenomenal job of bringing up, and in a very creative way. I think they're trying their best. But it's also within us. People themselves must there's so many people that will come and sit in my car, and when I tell them, come on, put your seatbelt on, even at the back, they're no, my saree will get crumpled, something. I don't care. Car's not moving until you put your seatbelt on. So yeah, it's critical to I think ourselves initiate it, for ourselves, our family, our people around us. And I think the moment everybody starts doing it on their own, it will automatically escalate. A couple of years ago, people would drink and drive, but when they cracked down on it and became strict about it, you think now, most people will not take a car after they've had a drink, which is the right thing to do.
Yes. And I totally agree. The creative side of how Mumbai police is actually doing the stuffs and then putting it out. So there are a lot of amazing stuffs that they do, especially with the traffic.
Absolutely. Their Instagram handle is actually a delight to follow. It's very, very creative.
Even on Twitter. So they put the same thing over there. So yes, there are lots to do. But yes, coming down again to the basic factor, for cars, it's the basic thing as seatbelt. And just for riders, it's the basic thing as helmet. And I see so many people not wearing the helmet, even on the road.
Or, wear the helmet, they haven't got it strapped on from down. It's not for the cop, it's for you, it's for your safety, it's not for the policeman's safety. So I think these kind of things need to be enforced.
Absolutely. And before, any last message or something that you would love to share to all the drivers who love driving and travel enthusiasts, specifically also women?
Oh, there's nothing like watching the world through your windscreen. You see so much more, you feel so much more, you experience so much more, you get closer to people when you do that. So yeah, drive, enjoy driving, and always do it within your limits, whatever your limits are. Some people may be able to go fast, some people may be able to go slow. Whatever your limits are, enjoy driving and stay within your limits. There's nothing anyone has to prove to anyone. Just enjoy the drive.
Absolutely. I totally love that last line. Thank you so much, Renuka. It's an absolute delight, and it's so pleasure to speak with you and knowing about your adventures and journey. And I'm sure our listeners who are travelers specifically and who are not travelers, they would love to look forward to their next traveling. Have enjoyed this episode.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for, yes, and setting the benchmark in the industry with your contributions and the things that you are doing. So thanks to you, actually.
Thank you.